Hi, my name is Lev Hordisky, and I'm an astrobiologist and educational innovator. Currently, I'm traveling around the world and working in various institutions to try to understand how science education works around the world. This semester, I'm at the University of the Virgin Islands in beautiful St. Thomas. And on the day the Berlin Wall fell, I don't really remember. I was about 7 years old, so I was probably going to school, studying, and playing with my brother and sister. As a child, I always wanted to be a scientist. I thought I wanted to be an astronomer, but what I really wanted to do was study aliens. And it turns out the closest you could get to studying aliens is ancient geology and paleontology. So I ended up becoming an astrobiologist. Close enough, but it turns out I had a knack for teaching, and so that's what I spend most of my time doing. My research breaks the wall of digital education. The challenge I'm trying to address is how do we get quality digital education, specifically science education, to kids and students who really need it, people who are working in remote areas that may not have access to reliable internet. So my solution is working with low-cost devices like these and developing systems that can work in this kind of environment without a connection to the internet. The concept behind the project is to get digital education tools into the hands of everyone, not just the people who have the latest smartphone, the fanciest computer, or the fastest internet. So the key innovation here is to create a system that allows anyone to construct adaptive learning activities, ones that respond to what students do and give them multiple pathways depending on what they do without having to use expensive education technology. So anyone with a smartphone can develop and deploy these activities anywhere they are, regardless of their connectivity or how fancy their equipment is. So I imagine a society where teachers anywhere can quickly create and modify their activities for their classroom based on what their students are doing. So rather than having to pay a bunch of programmers or to learn fancy coding in order to create materials that they can use in the classroom, teachers will be able to pull out their smartphone and quickly modify things based on how their students are performing. I also imagine teachers exchanging content that they've developed with other teachers and building and modifying them for their own classroom. Currently, this is very difficult to do. Teachers can exchange information, but it's very difficult to adapt it to local conditions, and so you end up with this dusty file cabinet where teaching materials go to die. I'm imagining something more akin to the scientific literature, where greatness builds upon greatness, and teachers who develop high-quality materials will get good citations and can put them into their professional portfolios, and that will actually have the student metrics analytics that will support these claims. I think there are a lot of them. There are a lot of boundaries that need to be overcome when we're translating teaching activities from one culture to the next. It's not just the cultural examples that need to be updated, it's also the language. Things need to be translated. And even then, there's also technical literacy. Not everyone understands the symbology that we use in our tools, and they're not always intuitive. So I think that there are quite a number of unanswered questions of how do we get materials across cultures, and how can we figure out what the patterns are in order to automate them and make that transition a bit easier so that the content we develop in one culture is more broadly applicable around the world. And what keeps me awake at night is whether we can figure out how to do this fast enough, because misinformation, disinformation, conspiracy theories, and propaganda are spreading far faster than our educational capabilities can keep up, and train our students to avoid these pitfalls of people who want to harm us through bad information.